You have a minute. What are you building?
We are a creator-focused, tech-enabled live shopping company.
They lose millions of dollars per minute, practically.
You didn't hit these beats, and you should.
69% of people who worked out of a WeWork office didn't have any friends.
That sounds so different.
It's kind of like Instagram-y.
Yeah.
And has good photos.
That doesn't help you. Don't tell that story.
You do need to have a very differentiated product or approach or distribution or something or edge around that. And I think highlighting that as fast as possible is really important.
Welcome, Charlie, to part 2 of our session together that is going to wind up being episode 26.
Great.
We had some great founders on episode 25. I'm excited to welcome the next founder up, so why don't we just get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Round of applause for the next founder up. Awesome. What's your name?
Michael Murdoch.
Michael, are you ready to give us your minute pitch, get some feedback?
Let's hope so.
You have a minute. What are you building?
All right, so I'm building a app called Ready, Set, Dinner, and it is a dinner social networking app. And so a lot of you have probably seen on Instagram and TikTok right now, there are all these cute videos of intimate dinners that people are organizing in Brooklyn, and people absolutely love them. They love meeting new people. It's less pressure than dating, but the business models of those companies don't scale. You can't organize 1,000 intimate dinners in one night in New York City without having an army of resources. So the app I'm coding is sort of the network that allows users to create dinners on their own. So it's a user-generated dinner network. And so with my network, there could be 1,000 dinners a night in 100 cities across the world all at once. So I'm the lead developer, the solo developer, and I'm about 95% done with the coding. And so this fall, I'm looking to raise money, find a business partner, and launch the app.
Under a minute.
Nice.
Thank you.
So I think I'm going to start with I think we stayed a little bit too high level. So you define the problem, you define maybe that the impact of your solution, which is like we can scale the thing that's happening right now in the weeds, but not any of the how.
Right.
So tell us a little about the how.
Yeah, so a little bit about the how is, it's simply you go on the app and you organize a dinner for 6 people. So it's either 3 guys and 3 girls, or if you're a girl or guy, you could do 6 girls or 6 guys. And so when you're organizing the dinner, anyone can join. And so the concept is a little scary for some people, but the whole idea is if you want to meet strangers, it's sort of like a blind date. Like you're going out to meet 5 new people, every time you go. But it allows people that are new to the city, like I was new to the city a dozen years ago and didn't know anyone, and this is something I would have used every day just to go and meet people. And so you can see where the dinner's organized, what time it is, the location and the restaurant. Or you could, join restaurant or join dinners, organize dinners, and I'm going to take a fee from every person. So it'd be $6 per person, so $30 per dinner. So it could be a cash cow very quickly. Does that make sense?
It makes. Is it a dating app or no?
So it's not a dating app. I should have
Okay.
said that.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a dating app. It's
Okay.
meant to just be for friends.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it will be marketed just,
Okay.
for
And so
friends.
the
But I could see a lot of people who are single and it's Friday night or Friday, they don't have plans for the weekend. They're looking for something to do. It's a low pressure way to go out and meet people over a meal, and you don't know where it's going to go.
Okay.
What's the obligation of the organizer, and what's also their participation?
So the obligation of the organizer is to, first of all, pick the location, time, date, and then the hope is, that they will, reserve a spot wherever they're going, or at least know if they can go. So that's part of the, responsibility of the organizer. But beyond that, then it's just to show up. And for the participants as well, it's just to show up.
And the value prop for the organizer, your value prop to the organizer is we will fill this.
Exactly. We're giving you a network to fill a dinner that maybe you otherwise wouldn't go to. So there, I meet foodies all the time in the city, and if there's a really good restaurant that they want to go to in their neighborhood, but maybe they haven't found, friends who want to join them, especially during the week, you can't always find friends to go to a restaurant that you want to. They could go on the network and say, who wants to join me at this cool new restaurant, and see who's available.
Okay.
And it's my job to help them fill that dinner.
But the organizer, they're not making money off of it. It's
Not in
purely
the current model.
Got it. So it's purely, hey, I want to meet new people. I have the initiative to go and find reservation, find a cool spot, book the reservation. I just want to find and fill up the seats and meet interesting people.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I think one quick feedback. I think because you're framing initially around the problem statement, made me initially think, oh, you're trying to target the people that do want to scale up, organizing these type of dinners. right? Because that's what I thought.
Like community builders.
Yeah, the community builders, where they are making the primary money-making mechanism is organizing these dinners.
That's a fair point.
And so I originally thought, oh God, there's like you're going to charge. My initial sort of framing made me believe that. Okay, so the value prop you're giving to them is that you'll help them fill the more spots. You'll pay them a little bit for basically customer acquisition, right? Hey, instead of advertising on Facebook, we built a network or ecosystem of diners and we can fill those spots in. But this one actually sounds, it's a pure kind of just social network play.
It's like a lead list, but not for a business.
And it's more so helping people kind of organize dinners together and then you're monetizing.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to like describe that the demand is there.
What's the name of it?
Ready, Set, Dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because people are going to dinners with strangers.
Yeah.
But no one's really come up with a good model to scale it.
Yeah. At least one of the questions that I probably have is how do you incentivize these organizers to continue to organize dinners, and also how do you keep them in the platform? Right, where to a certain extent, I think about LTV of the customer set, right? And so right now it sounds like the ICPs is, hey, you're new to New York or you want to meet new people. After a certain point, I think you do make friends, and then you have your friend group and that sort of comes off the app. How do you think about that, sort of like the LTV of that customer? How do you keep them kind of continue to be potentially engaged on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, long term, I've had several ideas. Like one is around perhaps having the app sort of a social component that people that you meet through the app you'll be able to message, and there's a good calendar and whatnot to help them organize dinners within their own social life. Because I've had this problem myself. Like it's Monday, you and your friends are trying to organize a dinner for Friday. You choose a place, a time. Friday morning comes along and everyone's like, oh crap, like what dinner did we organize? Nobody picked up a spot. It's not in the calendar. It's not whatever. So I think you could also sort of go that angle of trying to keep people in the app as if it's a utility. And I feel like some people too, what I would if it grows well enough is like scrolling, because it's kind of like Instagram-y and has good photos, that when you're looking for a place to go to dinner, I'm hoping some people might go to it and just go, where are people looking to go to dinner? Like they might not actually ever go to a dinner, but they'll use the app passively to find places to go to
dinner. That doesn't help you. Don't tell that story. Doesn't make you money.
How much validation have you sort of done around the problem statement? And have you run any sort of experiments to kind of test or any sort of MVPs around it to test sort of like this market demand?
Well, so there's two things. I mean, I've done a few pitch events with longer 3-5 minute pitches earlier this summer. And after each one, I had a half dozen people in their early 20s come up to me and be like, I would use this tomorrow. So like the demand is there for young people looking for new experiences. People are tired of the dating apps. They want something, a new way to meet people more organically. And there is one competitor in the field called Time Left. But their business model is a little different than mine because once again, they're doing the resource heavy work of organizing one dinner a week. But they've already done 100,000 dinners in 1 year in 100 cities across the globe.
Why is it called Time Left? That sounds like a death
app. It sounds like a death thing.
It's a horrible name. But it proves like the demand is there.
Sorry to the Time Left founder. I mean,
but they've done 10 million in revenue in 1 year off this idea. But they're doing the resource intensive habit of going across 100 cities, planning the dinner.
So some founder feedback and pitch feedback attached to his. The founder to founder feedback is like, do the test he's talking about soon so that you can tell a story of like, here's my MVP that I've put out into the world. You're waiting for you to code this app. Don't, right? Like go do an email only. This is the perfect product for an email only version. As you said, I get the Instagram ads for like we're doing a meetup for friends. So like that's out there. Tell that story. Tell the story of we're in a loneliness epidemic. People lack a third place. Like you didn't hit these beats. And you should. And part of the reason you hit those beats and then do your own MVP is the question, I think, the feeling I feel, and I think Charlie's feeling the same thing, it's like, it's nothing about what you're saying is objectionable. In our head, it's like, how hard is this consumer thing going to be to scale, to monetize? It's just like a
My biggest concern is getting people to organize.
Right.
Yes.
That's what
100% agree.
And that's where I think you go to these themes in this MVP to show that you understand the full, even you talking about this competitor is a showcase of your understanding of the market. You then saying, here are all the themes, says, here are the problems in the world that my theories are going to center around. Because when you say, hey, people want to meet and have these dinners, it's like, okay, do they want to have dinners or do we want to solve the loneliness epidemic? That second one is a much bigger playing field.
Correct.
And then your first experiment, your MVP, is you showing, oh, by the way, I know how to get practical from this
Right.
bigger playground.
Yeah.
There's a little bit, I guess, of that back to sequencing of story.
And that's actually the spirit of what I've been, trying to do.
Yeah.
Because I've been sort of studying the space for 6 or 7 years. I call it like online friending.
Yeah.
Online dating is blown up,
Yeah.
but online friending is still
Humble
difficult.
BFFs is always the story that founders will tell on this stage when they're solving this problem.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think similarly, I think the consumer is really, really hard to build like true venture-backed scale businesses, right? In order to actually get there needs to be some sort of K-factor virality, right? Of whether it's just like recurring LTV usage and also acquiring customers. It's just very competitive and very, very expensive.
Right.
And so I'm always a big fan of if there's like other kind of MVP-like validation, right? I agree. I think the concern or question that I have is how do you continue to keep these organizers engaged, right? If there's a way to validate that, we've been able to acquire these like super organizers, right? Like here's, I don't know, these Gen Z people that I do think there's also like a generational thing here, right? Of like, I'm a millennial, like I don't really meet strangers. That's not a thing I really do. But I can see a world where
thing you get is being invited to be a co-host on this sort of thing.
right? Whereas I think for like Gen Z, that is, it's a more common thing, especially post-pandemic, right? A lot of them went through college and didn't actually have those sort of organic experiences. They move into New York. There's a specific sort of demographic we're targeting. Being specific about the demographic too is also very, very interesting. So I think that's part. I'd be curious to understand like who are you targeting actually too on that side.
Yeah, to me, it's the people in their 20s.
Yeah.
I think even being more specific, and this is where I think all of the founders who are alum of the Feedback Loop, I consider friends. So I'm going to mention a pitch that there actually our TikTok of them is blowing up over the past 2 days. A founder, Nisha, is building an app called Livy.
Okay.
And Livy is for matching groups of women for, I don't think she forces them to meet each other, but it happens a lot. I guess maybe it starts as a conversation or a chat. And she started by matching groups of women over some sort of sense of shared interest. And it's going really well, I understand, from early days. And that obviously is a specific enough niche that it rolls off the tongue a little bit.
Right.
The 20s is not as easy. You don't always have to have a niche, but I think the niche, that's why it probably came up, is like it allows you to have a much more specific message because she doesn't have some other advantage. It's the message that she gets to send to them. Now, she also is still figuring out things like monetization and other stuff, and I'll introduce you to because I think that maybe some collaborative brainstorming would be useful. But that one has a very vivid brand and some very loyal fans already. So just think about that.
Yeah. Awesome. I would definitely test on monetization and recurring monetization. Like I think that if you can organize, like even do some of the organized, like you can probably do the hard thing, right, which is organize dinners and get these people to do stuff together and have people organize. And if you continue to charge them and say, hey, like even with this early cohort of customers, we're seeing like really high retention and engagement. Because that will, I think, like any early signals you can point to of like, these are the fundamental things of the business model, and we have early validation that it works. I think just give people more conviction of, okay, there's something that you're right on.
Right.
Thanks for sharing and good luck
Yeah.
with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You consumer businesses like this where you need a market factor are super hard, but I think the thing that neither of us said was like, I don't believe in this problem, and that's the advantage of these businesses is as much as it feels like a tar pit, as much as it feels like it's going to be, in some ways, I wouldn't want to be a founder in that space because it sounds like hell on earth. However, if you succeed in that journey, the rewards are immense.
Yes.
The problem is very real. The impact to people is so strong.
Yes.
How do you feel when you receive those pitches as an investor where like your investor brain goes, oh, I have so many challenges with this, but then your altruistic brain or your I feel this problem brain says, but if they can figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know. I still land at, for consumer products, it does need to be sort of drop dead simple and as frictionless as possible. Like consumer is still probably one of the most competitive, like you're competing you're competing for someone's time at the end of the day, right? You're competing against very sophisticated technology players, like Facebook is very good at this. Netflix is very good at this. And to acquire that incremental user, there's still a lot of work to be done to get a user to download find out about the app, download the app, sign up for the app, continue to use the app. And
you
so
ask
like
a consumer to pull out their own money.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And so like there needs to be like almost like a very obvious, in fact, even more obvious ROI even on the business side. Because the other part I think that a lot of consumers are very sort of irrational around that. And so, yeah, I think for something like that, honestly, I probably would validate it with like the customer set. Okay, great, it's early 20s. Like I will go ask people in my family, people in my network of like, is this something that would resonate, right? And I generally think for something in the consumer landscape, like it kind of has to resonate either with a small niche customer segment that is extremely highly active and we think can actually monetize very, very well, or just needs to be like dead obvious, oh yeah, shit, I would love to download it app today.
The other component of that is like as a founder being willing to tackle that challenge. I'm actually a consumer founder as well. For agency targets consumers with a very high-end, high-cost service. It's monetizing that niche. We monetize on the tech professional side, but it's very much a high-end service.
Is very high.
The LTV is extremely high. We have our CAC to LTV ratio that's like people don't believe, but by the way, that is a certain market. But then the fun part is, if you succeed in this space, the thing I always joke about is like, if I ever, I think free agency is somewhat the magnum opus, but if I ever started a B2B business, I can kind of do it, maybe like with 25% of the effort, because the amount, as a founder, you have to be committed on the consumer side because of all the things you listed. It's next level.
I agree.
Shall we welcome next founder up?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Round of applause. Next founder. What's your name?
Yvonne.
Yvonne, are you ready to give us your minute pitch and get some feedback?
Yes, I am ready.
Awesome. You have a minute. What are you building?
Okay, so my name is Yvonne. I'm the founder of BeLive. We are a creator-focused, tech-enabled live shopping company. So having been working as a product manager at Wish before, I've seen the first-hand debate of live shopping, something that has been working tremendously well in Asia, but hasn't been realized in the West yet. But I really think live shopping is here today. If we're looking at the data, Jeffree Star sold $650K in one live shopping session. And Canvas Beauty, a creator-led brand with 300K followers, sold more than $1 million in one single live session. And if you're looking at TikTok's data in the UK market, 30% of their GMV today coming from live shopping. So I think it's happening right now. Essentially, what my company do here is we help creators to sell on live simultaneously across multiple platforms. And we know the success formula of live shopping. I've worked as a live shopping host before. I'm trying to learn this. And we have the successful formula. We're just here to enable them and help those creators to amplify their brands in the new era of social commerce. Yes.
That's a minute. Good job. I just have to say, like, obviously, like the live shopping thing not working in the US, but working in primarily Asia and other places has been such an interesting thing that founders have been trying to tackle. There are a bunch of notable and not notable startups over the past 5 to 10 years that have tried. I am a little bit confused as to why helping creators go multi-platform is going to help this work. I will say one hypothesis you might tell me, the problem is everyone who's tried to tackle this tries to build their own platform where the live shopping happens. So that's maybe one theory that you're saying that's the problem. But I guess, understanding that the market opportunity hasn't landed as much as it should in the US, why is multi-platform streaming, or what problem is that solving in particular that you think is holding this back?
That's a great question. So from what I've been working as a live shopping company before, and I've worked with multiple creators and also multiple company before, what we're seeing is the success formula is actually having creator to sell the platform, so sell the product in the platform themselves. But the thing is, every creator have different emphasis on different market. Like someone is 1 million follower on YouTube could only have 100K followers on TikTok. So be able to help them reach out to all their followers across multiple platforms is actually something that after we talking to a few creators, that what they really cared about. And that's where we want to start with our product as. But at the end of the day, our specialization is actually understanding how to sell better with live shopping. So we use this as our kind of a product to enter to the market. But what we also wanted to build the product feature at the end of the day is once we have this creator on the platform, we want to help them to productize and learn how to better do a live shopping in real life. We want to create them the data because live shopping is actually a combination of art and science. When you this whole setup right here, there's a lot of science goes behind into it, where to sit and what to talk and how long do you talk about one product, which product has higher margin, which product the creator actually makes more money. So the science behind it, that's what we're also interested in building on it. But to get the creator interested on our platform, we felt like having the access to give them to build on multiple platforms is actually our first step. Yeah.
Interesting. Is all of that going to be through a consulting style model, or is that through productization? When you talk about, we're going to help you understand how long to talk about a product, how to talk about that product, what form does that take in the long-term vision for you?
I think an AI product will be helped these days. Yes. especially understanding like what are the scripts and how long you talk about this product at which point.
So does this essentially? I think this should be the reframing of the pitch a little bit, because I think you defined a problem, you defined some of why you're interesting to solve it. The clear definition of like, this is a platform that a creator can go to, still stream to all of their native platforms, but ours is like kind of like a teleprompter almost about all the things that have to do with live shopping, because that's what's hard about it. And our teleprompter tells you not only what to say, when to say it, how the shopping dynamics are going, how to increase conversion, and our advantage is this is not on a proprietary stream. This goes out into where the creators already live. That could be a really easy form factor, but I think that's what needs to be a little bit more refined.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks for that feedback. Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm curious. And then what type of creators, are you trying to focus on creators that are already trying to kind of sell products, or is it, hey, we're enabling creators that have a following but haven't monetized that following to sort of, what's the market you want to focus on?
Yeah, the market right now, I want to focus on creators who already built their brand.
Yeah.
So they're already established their channel, like they already have their brands. They've already been talking about that. I've seen the success formula over there. I haven't seen, if we're building a platform for creators to build their own brand, that will be another product.
Yeah. Okay, so it's, they already have existing brand, they already have existing products, and it's helping them actually just optimize and get more distribution.
Yes.
Okay, great. I actually think I would start off with that because I think that
Creator monetization becomes one of the things that you then get to tell as a story very vividly. Like, we heard a lot about live shopping, which I think you have to tell that story. But then the thing I didn't hear until just now is like, and this is a story that's easy to understand and is told in other forms and shapes, is like creators are struggling now to monetize because some of the ad money has gone away. The platform money is inconsistent. They can't control a lot of it. So you're also in a lot of ways a creator economy story. I mean, you're almost entirely that, but like a creator enabling story too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the other, I think that at least from an investor perspective, I definitely buy that there are I think it's, at least whenever I've seen pitches, and this is something I think to also think about, is a lot of I think there was a wave of creator economy like companies that kind of emerged over the last like 4 or 5 years. And I think the creator economy in the US hasn't quite panned out to the same extent that we've seen in other emerging markets, particularly in Asia, as you mentioned, right? So I think there is already like an implicit bias for a lot of investors around, it's another creator economy startup, right? We've seen a lot of funding go into it and it hasn't worked, right? A lot of it could be timing, right? Like that's a very common issue where I think VCs get timing wrong. But I think almost like, how do you also proactively sort of like get ahead of that, right? Where it's like, hey, the market that we're focused on, it's like there's X% of creators in the United States that are already making X amount of dollars today, right? They're monetizing their channels like pretty well. They're already selling products and brands. What we do is we help them 10x that revenue, right? The way we do that is by enabling them to turn on multi-platform super seamlessly, and we provide them, I always think about like Gong for creators, right? Where Gong is a sales tool that AI coaching for like sales teams. It's a B2B context. It sounds like there's like almost like a Gong AI product for
It's so funny by how like shocking that comparison is. Like an AI coach is not something you expect to hear for anything other than a B2B use case. And like there's this like thing that you just did there of like, oh, that creator gets the benefits that don't exist for them from other industries or sub-industries.
Yes.
And that, I know that's not where you began your journey. You didn't go like, I want to, in a good way, I wouldn't believe in this founder who goes, I want to apply Gong to this problem. But by using that comparison, it kind of shocks the system a little bit. Yeah. And we go, oh, hold on, what could that be?
Because I think especially, at least in that case, it's like Gong was a surprise hit, right? Where it was a product category that didn't really exist before, but because of AI, right, there's now a new market TAM that opens up. And you can actually offer this product at scale before, right? And I think that would be actually quite interesting.
Thanks for that feedback. I'll look into that,
Super interesting problem and product though. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. Charlie, for the sake of time, why don't we head right into the next founder, shall we?
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's round of applause for the next founder up.
Hey, Sherveen. Hey, Charlie. Hi, everyone.
What's your name?
I'm Ben. I'm the CEO of Tavern Community.
Awesome. Are you ready to pitch, Ben, and tell us what you're building?
I am. I'm very excited.
You have a minute. What is Tavern Community?
Awesome. So my story starts in 2021, graduated university, entered the workforce, thought I'd be super happy. I landed the dream job working remotely. The problem was I was working remote. And while at first I thought that was amazing, turns out to have been the loneliest period of my entire life. And so I tried working from coffee shops, I tried working from co-working spaces, but co-working spaces were expensive and people didn't really talk there. And a similar deal with coffee shops. You can't stay there for more than 90 minutes, and people don't really chat there either. And so I started hosting groups of 15 to 20 people each week out of an underutilized space, and that's now evolved into Tavern Community. It's a B2B2C and B2B2B digital subscription platform that leverages underutilized space in hotels, bars, and restaurants to create a distributed network of drop-in co-working spaces working in collaboration with a network of incentivized community organizers. So we've hosted over 1,000 people in the last year, and we're excited to create the future of work and community.
Under a minute, good job.
Amazing.
Oh man, this is a tar pit. That's not a bad thing. Are you familiar with the term tar pit?
I'm not.
So tar pit startup, a tar pit idea. I feel like a broken record, but for those who might not be as familiar, a lot of people experience a pain point. These typically tend to be things that young people all experience at the same time. It might be people creating a to-do list app, a gym app, a dating app, and so it creates this tar pit of a lot of ideas that are solving a real problem. That's why the tar pit is created in the first place. So many people share wanting the thing to be solved, but it somewhat creates the same ideas that struggle against each other almost.
Sure.
And so tar pit ideas, I often, when I hear them, that's the challenge I first want to talk about, because I think tar pit ideas should embrace what makes them a tar pit. So for example, for you, I want as part of your pitch, and we'll get into the back and forth about it, but I want as part of your pitch all the things that you will do differently than the people who have done what you're talking about, because there have been many attempts, and you may or may not be more familiar or less familiar with some of them, that have tried to do the underutilized space turns into co-working thing. So embracing the tar pit is often a good idea, and making part of your pitch how you're going to be different and experimenting with tackling the challenge, I think is essential. So that's kind of my feedback turned into question.
Totally.
How are you going to be different than the few attempts that have happened here? And there have been some serious players who have taken attempts.
Yeah. So first off, super awesome that you're familiar with all the other folks who have tried this before. In 2016 to 2019, there were two major players. One was Kettle Space, one was Spacious. So I've spoken to both of the CEOs. One of the companies did well, one of the companies did less well. And I think what they proved was the supply side, was that the principle of co-working out of underutilized space works.
As in the spaces themselves are willing to offer up.
Exactly.
How well did they do? The one
how
that did well.
The, company,
Like,
the
what
one
did-
that did well, so
Yeah.
Spacious, was led by a guy named Preston Pesek.
Yeah.
He was the CEO. They were acquired for, I think, $42.5 million. Which
Okay, yeah.
the next thing that happens here is that the venture capitalists say, okay, well, $42.5 million isn't really enough to move the needle.
Yeah.
That's where I say, and totally right. But what they proved is the supply side, that can work. Then the question is, well, how do we take what did exist and create something even better? And
Yeah.
I think that's what we're doing. Part of what we're doing in the pitch is that we partner with community organizers, and we incentivize them to work with us. So you can kind of think of it like meetup.com for co-working. And let's say you're a community organizer and you want to host your group of 50 in a bar or restaurant. It can cost you at least $1,500 to do that because the restaurants want a minimum spend. Come to us and we offer you free space, and we also offer you 10% on food and beverage that is purchased during the events. So we're getting this influx of community organizers that we're matching then to the spaces that we already have as supply. And so that's something that I spoke with Preston and Daniel, the CEOs of both of those companies, and Preston is excited, and I'm excited about this new way to engage the demand side.
I'm curious. Actually, I guess I'm curious. Why do you want to raise venture capital? It sounds like you've built a great business and it's doing
Thank you.
very well.
Yeah.
And getting good traction. Why go down the venture route?
Right. So I think there are a few answers to that question. The first one is, in transparency. We've been operating on an event basis. And so, we've had over 1,000 people come through to our events. What I'd like to do is I'd like to actually turn this idea into what I really would like to do, which is a distributed network of spaces across the city and eventually the country, et cetera, and also a platform for community organizers. To do this, we need to benefit from a network effect and having a strong enough network that it's going to be, worthwhile the customer's dollars to spend on a membership. So I think we're almost there, but that's why, we're raising a pre-seed round. The other thing is we also want to be able to make a really big impact. And I think this, what WeWork did, obviously it didn't work out, but it did inspire a lot of people to show them that maybe work doesn't have to be miserable and it can actually be something productive and amazing and social. And so I want to capture that feeling and just work with a better business model that doesn't go bankrupt.
So why is the business model better with community organizers? I heard
Yeah.
you say about food and space and the 10%. Most of these places used underutilized time, so the restaurants were closed for a kettle space and spacious.
Yeah.
So you're saying something different there, and if that's the only thing, then I want to know more about how like that food and bev, because you don't want us to host an event where people necessarily come to buy dinner. You want us to co-work out of the space. So am I going to buy dinner when I'm co-working?
Great question. So the way we've structured it, we have a formula that can repeat both for events and for our flagship membership once that ultimately launches. And that formula is we do a communal lunch, co-working, and happy hour. And that's what our definition of a co-working day is. And so then people...
Are you a co-working company? This sounds different. Sure. In like a positive way. Like, let me tell you, the tarpit is what came up because you like pitched this as a co-working company. That sounds like this might or might not scare a lot more venture capitalists, but it sounds like you're making like a new version of what the other guy, I know you might not, the founders aren't in the room for this, but another founder pitched a friend matchmaking.
We chatted earlier. I think there's some similarity there too.
And I think, because what you just described is very different from I'm going to pay 10, 25, 30 bucks, 50 bucks, $100 to go work out of an empty restaurant.
Yep. And I think the answer is we're creating something new. And, to me, that's very exciting. To some, that might be scary, but that's also what's exciting about entrepreneurship.
But maybe I'm saying the top label, even though part two is co-working, should not be we're a co-working company. The top label is we are a new way to work, or we're a new way to meet or to live. And as I say that, I'm like, I sound like Adam Newman, and I don't want to. But I want you to say something different as the top. Then you say that comes in three parts: the brunch, the co-working, happy hour.
Yeah.
Because that sounds so different.
Yeah.
And a little bit refreshing of like, oh, you want me to meet the people I'm going to co-work with?
Yeah.
In 2024, the reason someone wants this is all the reasons you described you experienced that you wanted this.
Social connection, networking, exactly. And also, we're assembling niche groups. So, we have an engineers cohort, or a venture capital cohort, or a marketers cohort, or an LGBTQIA+, and possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I actually think the framing, actually co-working does a bit of a disservice to you. Because I actually think to me, it sounds more of like it's almost like an in-person LinkedIn social network, right? Where it's professionally orientated, right? Because it's set during the day and it's people that are working, right? But there's an implicit, you are meeting people. Like when I think co-work, I think we work. I don't think the Adam Newman we work. I think I go here because I need to go to an office and I don't want to work from home. But this is actually very, very different.
You're actually creating, you shouldn't use the word because the word's been taken away, but you're creating true co-working, as in you're creating co-workers.
Oh, I'm so happy. This is great. This is exactly what I'd love to come out of this conversation.
Because you're talking about what the experience is like to have co-workers. WeWork never achieved. Co-working spaces do not have you have co-workers. They have you be next to people.
So there's a stat out there, and I give this in my longer pitch, but WeWork did an internal study in 2017, and they found that 69% of people who worked out of a WeWork office didn't have any friends other than their immediate coworkers.
Okay.
And so, what's the point of working in a co-working space? Whereas Tavern community, we are inherently social, because it's impossible to have lunch and a burger with someone and a beer with someone and not develop a relationship.
And again, that's the story that I would want, is not only part of your pitch to investors, but part of your pitch to consumers, as part of your ability to break out of the tar pit. Is you're saying we're recreating the idea of having a workplace, of having coworkers. If you are in a co-working space today, you don't have happy hour with those folks. But with a Tavern community, you have the same happy hour that the in-person team has, and then you connect it to remote work. I'm not a big believer in remote work for a variety of reasons. So I believe like most companies should go back in person, but you can tap onto that zeitgeist and say, hey, one of the challenges of remote work is remote companies have not figured out and don't seem like they're going to figure out anytime soon the community aspects of replacing work. This is something that can actually do that for folks.
I feel like you guys really get it. This is great.
Well, there's all the economics which we don't need to get to, for the sake of time, but I think that will lead you to a much better starting point of conversation.
Perfect.
Any last thoughts? Yeah. Great job. Good luck.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Just quickly on the concept of the tar pit, how do you think about tar pit ideas? They're less common in your world because fintech, B2B, SaaS, infrastructure, like you're much harder, not harder to businesses to build, but you find those problems through more long journeys. You've been in finance, so you come up with something. But here, tar pit can still exist in your world. What do you think about it?
Yeah. It's tough to break out, and I think creating a differentiated view. I think to your point, it's a lot of it for that does become interesting is the counter positioning, and then a lot of it, which does probably come in a longer pitch, is I think being proactive and acknowledging it, right? Of just like, hey, like there's been a lot of things. Here's all the things that didn't work, and here's why it didn't work, right? Whether it was a timing perspective, product perspective, and here's our unique, just like really simplified edge as to why we'll break out. I think the reason why tarpit ideas are also very hard to build on the scale because there's a lot of people. It is usually very competitive, right? So as a result. You do need to have a very differentiated product or approach or distribution or something or edge around that. And I think highlighting that as fast as possible is really important.
Using it as a sharp edge to cut through the noise.
Yes, yeah.
Ultimately, again, tarpit ideas are not unworthy. In fact, they might be very worthy.
Yeah.
But they're so much harder on that 0 to 1.
Yep.
All right, with that, shall we welcome our last founder to stage? Round of applause. What's your name?
My name is Louis DiCioli.
Awesome, Louis. Are you ready to give us your minute pitch and get some feedback?
Very much.
What are you building?
All right. Have you ever been working on something and need to show someone something who isn't there with you? Right.
All the time.
Isn't a trick question. We live in a distributed world, and good work consists of that feedback, that cooperation. But why then is it still so hard and ineffective when we have our most complex and difficult work right in front of us? For example, let's say you're a technician on a factory floor. ASML is one of the companies we've been talking to. They are the world's leading chip maker. One of their machines is having problems. This is a huge deal for them. Every hour of downtime is $50 million of lost revenue for them. So they're immediately calling all the engineers around the world to help analyze and fix this problem. And they communicate about that the same way that you do. Zoom, screen sharing, sending files and links back and forth. And it's not that effective for fixing this type of complex problem. The technology is finally there to be able to actually have someone feel like they're right alongside you, see what you're seeing.
That's a minute. We'll give you a round of applause and we'll continue. So tell us more about that portion of it.
The last third, to be able to actually feel like someone who isn't there is with you and to interact with what you're seeing just like if they were really there. I'm a former Googler. I'm an AR engineer on the AR VR team there, and I studied computer science and electrical engineering at MIT, and the founder and CEO of Together, an app to help businesses figure out how to communicate when they need it the most.
And so let's go to the part of it. How does that happen? How does someone feel like they're next to me?
So this year, for the first time, we have not just VR headsets, but mixed reality headsets. The headsets have finally gotten good enough where you put them on and you first start by just seeing what's around you. And you can have a call where someone calls in as a 3D avatar generated from a single selfie, and you see them as if they're just next to you in your space. Similarly, that's how they see you. And you can bring digital content into that, like a web browser or videos, 3D models and images, and interact with that as if it was physical in your space.
And which platforms is this for today, or is it out yet?
We're in development. We have alphas on Vision Pro and on Quest as well.
And is it as good on Quest as Vision Pro?
Pretty much. It's amazing what the competition of Apple in the marketplace has done. So really kicked
the pass-through is slightly less good.
It's slightly lower resolution, but the distortion and the other aspects of that, they've really fixed it in the past.
And I'm seeing as let's say the second party, I'm seeing what the first party is seeing.
The best experience of that is if you're both in the headset. So they're seeing some video of like what they're seeing. You kind of see that in front of them.
But that's not a video. So I put it on, and Charlie's in Mexico on vacation, and I say, Charlie, I need your help. I'm valuing a deal, and the deal is physical for some reason. When I invite him to the call, what does he see exactly in terms of what's in front of me? Anything in front of me, or only the things I bring in a web browser?
It will only be the things that you bring into it. And then if you had a real need to bring in something that you're seeing live, the ability to then show the camera of what you're seeing. And it's not going to turn into some 360 video. It's that he's seeing this kind of video in front of you that he can then point at and you see in your field of view.
But there he's more like, he's not next to me. He's more like hijacking my POV.
No, he's still next to you. You still kind of see him next to you, and he's interacting with that as if he's standing next to you.
But it's less real, like his view is still technically my POV.
Correct. He's looking as if it's this kind of hemispherical video that he's looking into. And the ability to then do that from outside the headset on web and mobile as well to really get to where people are so they don't have to put this headset on.
Oh, that's interesting.
I guess super dumb question is Apple, like Facebook, are they not building this today, or Zoom not building this today? And sort of, is it sort of a generalized platform, or are you going very specific into specific workflows or use cases for the type of customers you're talking to?
Yeah, it's a great question. And my point of view on it is that FaceTime existed before Zoom.
Yeah.
Apple has their communication app. It's not really meant for businesses. You don't really do business calls on Zoom. Same thing or on FaceTime. Neither do you on WhatsApp. They're going to build for their own platforms. And we're finally at that point with both of these players in the market where a cross-platform app developer to be able to build something like that Zoom of the next generation is a really valuable place to be. And my CTO and I, our team of two, have that expertise to be able to build this right now when it's still very difficult and very early on to kind of hit this as we're entering that next phase.
Okay, I would definitely start with that up front. I think, yeah, like there's a new platform shift, right? For the first time, we have VR, right? Here are the specific use cases where VR is actually quite interesting, and we're building basically Zoom for this new platform, right? Because I think it took me a while to get to, like, I thought you were actually like a workflow vertical software observability tool initially when you kind of brought up the chip stuff. And then I got thrown into oh, wait, there's actually a VR thing over here. I actually thought you were going to be like a robot or something initially. So I think actually kind of helping me frame, I like actually like kind of describing what is it that you do up front? Because as a result, like I don't have to spend, cool, I know what you are, and then I can get the context. Whereas if I'm spending a lot of time, I'm like almost like waiting to hear what is the thing, and I'm almost like not really listening to like all the stuff you sort of say before. But if you can help me kind of put me in the world that I'm sort of looking at or thinking about, and then go into the problem statement, then it just helps you contextualize, got it, okay, like here's your solution, here's all the problem statement around it, and I'm not trying to guess at what the solution is. Because I think for the first 40 seconds, I was kind of trying to guess what I thought the solution would look like.
It's enough context allowed to be dangerous to like go with you on your pitch as opposed to having to work backwards in it. I agree with that, and I'd say, even doubling down on the zeitgeist components of it. So like you've not mentioned this entire time. Maybe it's because you're a Googler and you're like against mentioning, but you've mentioned their other product, Quest, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. Aren't they a huge portion of your potential market?
Potentially, they're a great product. I see people who really love them.
Well, the reason I say I'm even surprised at your potentially and how hesitant it is. They seem to be onto something with glasses that everyone might wear. I mean, the Vision Pro has failed, right?
Both of them
take off the founder building in the Apple ecosystem.
No, absolutely. I don't recommend Vision Pro to most people unless you really love watching movies by yourself. It's amazing.
Right.
But both of these players know that glasses is the end game here. They're both building.
Why are you not talking about that as part of your pitch?
I think because in fundraising in 2024, saying to any investor, hey, 3 years from now, the glasses are coming.
But like, worse is saying that thing nobody owns is one of my main platforms.
I think that's why I've tried to start with the example of like, here's a really important problem for a business. They lose millions of dollars per minute practically.
Yeah.
So they're the people willing to
I think you need to either go very deep in that one, or if you're going to stay general and go like, there's a lot of problems and a lot of people want to see the same thing. That's where you go, great, glasses, AR, Meta Ray-Ban is making this accessible. They're investing in a V2 of that. Everyone else is going to have their competitor that's going to be easy for everyone to wear. And as these things get easier to wear, we're going to invite each other to have our POV together. Or you say, hey, certain types of businesses, this is a P0 problem all the time and it costs a lot of money. And we actually even sell you the Vision Pro alongside of it because you might not own it yet. And we're the enterprise solution to this transcontinental visibility problem. And we're a bundled service and app that goes to your company and sells you 4 or 5 of these things plus a service package, and it's real time and it handles communication and blah, 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 blah. But that's like, I think both of those extremes are the only ways I would recommend when you're in the middle. Then all the questions come up like, is this really accessible? Is this really going to be affordable as a solution? Are there enough people on these platforms? Are you opposed to being one of the two extremes? I mean, if you don't want to be one of those two, then that's a reason not to pitch one of those two. Like, is that?
Definitely. Grand vision is we're all going to meet like this someday.
Yeah,
it's been in our human consciousness for a while of the ability to see someone in 3D as if they're really there. Yeah. And this can become that, but I've been in the AR/VR space about a decade. I know the tar pit of all the previous players, and I've been one of those before. So to know that it's finding the customers who get that much value and doing the turnkey solution for them of like, well,
I think that enterprise side, and again, to your point, if you build in the space correctly, I think you can eventually genericize as a product. But I think like, and you can sequence this pitch, right? You can go, hey, today, the people who should care about this but don't yet because they don't know how to use it and the apps aren't great to use are businesses who want to give that visibility. And there's this, again, transcontinental problem, a communication problem, a visibility problem. We're going to solve that today. Here's the very expensive solution we're building. You buy our app, you buy a service package, you pay monthly. But what we're really building is we want to get really good at giving this kind of spatial awareness and shared POV experience. And over time, we believe we'll genericize. This works also on the AR glasses. It works for consumers. It's a replacement for FaceTime and Zoom. So you're telling a sequence story where like it's the wedge again, but your wedge happens to be this really interesting
It's the
first
Tesla
example.
pitch.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
The first car.
Yeah. We're going to make the first car. It's going to, for people that get a lot of value, a
sports
lot of
car.
sympathy. We're going to use that as the R&D for the tech to then eventually build the consumerized version or whatnot of it. That is part of the vision to a certain extent. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think the most interesting thing to me was the enterprise aspect. Because I think that we are moving toward this world of like chips and hardware again, right? Like that is the future of AI, right? And like Zoom chats don't work there. I agree with that premise. And I think, kind of being really specific on, what is the sort of like bundled solution that you're trying to offer and give to them as the wedge would be like interesting to dive into.
Well done. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Yeah.
That was our final founder. So now let's do two things. Let's first talk about the takeaways. We've heard a second batch here. Have takeaways shifted for you? What are you feeling hearing all these founders go? In terms of pitch.
No, I think similar takeaways. I think I think a lot of it, especially when you only have a minute, is like how do you provide just the right frame of reference on how to think about the business.
Yeah.
And there's hacks around that. You could use analogies, you could use other like similar models, you could use competitors and competitive landscape. But it's especially if it's maybe a potentially crowded space. Like I will just go make assumptions, right? I think you've probably seen a bunch of pitches. I've seen thousands of pitches. And so unless I'm like really framed very, very quickly, I'll just kind of wander until I kind of get a frame of reference of how to think about the business.
Your brain is somewhat moving faster than the pitch.
Yes, yeah, because I'm trying to get ahead to think about what is the next question that I actually want to ask that I think can get to an interesting answer about what's unique about that company. So I think especially like the framing I usually give for these like super quick elevator pitches is how do you provide enough. It's not just context, but it's like the frame of reference so that person just quickly gets, this is what you do and this is the customer that you're serving.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately on the founder to decide, hey, if I am in this pitch moment, if I have 60 seconds, if it's the beginning of the deck and I'm talking about my intro story, how do I deprioritize some of the details in a way that I'll go back to later?
Yeah.
I have to be conscious about saying, hey, I'm not going to tell the full version of this story. I'm going to hint at it.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that I either bring that back
Yep.
or I know that I'm good enough at hooking people that they'll ask that question.
Yeah.
It's also sometimes leaving some of those things unsaid. I'm really bad at this, but like leaving them unsaid so that the investor might ask the question and feel like they're, part of building that solution with you.
Yeah.
But you have to decide as a founder, how do I deprioritize certain portions of the pitch?
Yeah, and I also think I think a lot of this also I used to do sales and go to market, and I still to a certain extent do. I think a 1 minute pitch, an elevator pitch is a very different, distinct pitch than it's not just take your 30-minute, 20-minute pitch and simplify it down to a minute. It's actually a very distinct product, I think.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
With that, the other thing we'll do, we've heard 7 pitches tonight. Some in the prior episode, some in this.
Yeah.
What stands out to you? What's the pitch that you could feel you most get behind from a combination of the pitch and the concept?
I would say the first one actually probably was the one I actually think has
Gemlytics.
interesting legs around. The reason being is there's questions on TAM always with vertical software, right? But I tend to like, if you can become the system of record for a company, it opens up a lot of interesting monetization methods, right? Where, okay, great, if it turns, like I think for a venue, I've got to imagine most of the software is probably pen and paper and a person in the back office like booking these people, right? So there's not that much software actually focused on them. If you can provide this amazing wedge to help you find artists, right? We'll help you find and book artists. That's pretty interesting, I think, and you'd be willing to get people to sign up for that. Obviously, to solve the marketplace stuff, but then if you then use that as the right to win, okay, great, now we're going to use our platform as a system record to manage all the artists, to manage royalties, payouts, ticketing, et cetera. it just allows you to increase the ACV of that, like what you get from that vertical software, right? Where now you have SaaS revenue, you have marketplace revenue, you have payments revenue, and that's like the trifecta of vertical SaaS software. The question will definitely become like, well, how many venues are there? How many of those actually will want to buy that? And how big is that market? But I could see something like that actually like potentially be like venture scalable.
Yeah, well, I think I like that pitch for similar reasons. There are a couple categories of startup industry that are often on the stage. Music is one of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the music pitches we get, I go, I can't figure out how you're going to make money. This problem I get, everyone wants to solve something with artists, and there have been 2 pitches. One that was a couple weeks ago, and this one where I go, oh, this is net new.
Yeah.
This is not solving the like, I need to make more on a stream thing that artists are complaining about on Spotify. There's something else that they're tackling. Yeah. So it's really interesting from that perspective. The one that I find compelling that is, kind of maybe wasn't as sharp in the initial pitch as it got over time, but was really interesting was the energy, I'm forgetting the name of the company, but the thing that's most striking to me is Con Ed comes to measure our, I barely know what it means when they do that, our meter every 3 months. I don't know why they don't have that at warehouse or whatever. But there's measurement there. I receive it in my bill, both consumer and residential bill, like what's going on here. That feels like it's going to be an increasing problem, regardless of the regulatory stuff that she's currently kind of tackling over time, whether it's our water bill, our electricity bill, how we think about these things, whether it's from a climate and regulatory perspective or just a financial perspective as tenants, as landlords, as consumers. And again, I think the pitch can encompass more of this. Yeah. But to me, if there are devices that help us measure, and it starts with tenants, and then it gets to landlords, or both, and then it gets to residential, or whatever. And that might not be her particular vision, but that gets me the most excited. Over that pitch, I saw more and more of a market potential that also has to do with the way the world is changing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. Yeah.
Charley, this has been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for your insights.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Round of applause, too, for all of the founders who got up on stage and gave us their minute pitch. And to the team for putting together such great production. We do this every Tuesday because we're crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So with that, all I have to say is, again, thanks, Charley. Thanks for everybody else. See you next Tuesday. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.